They humiliated her in training, but the Navy SEAL made them regret it instantly. The first whispers began before she even stepped onto the polished obsidian floor of the interspecies combat hall. Rumors traveled fast in the Galactic Academy, a human woman volunteering for joint species tactical drills, a species known more for stubborn survival than elegance or strength. The alien cadets expected clumsiness, fragility, maybe even fear. Instead, they found a woman walking with calm, unshaken steps, every movement measured as if she were entering a place she had already conquered in her mind. Her expression revealed nothing, but her eyes held a quiet warning that only a few would recognize. Something about her pace unsettled the room, not loud, not forceful, but utterly controlled. And for those paying attention, that control was more terrifying than any threat. The hall itself was a cathedral of engineered intimidation. Ribbed metallic arches climbed into shadows high above, and massive banners of alien empires draped the walls, each depicting victories humans were never meant to compete with. Training observers, diplomats, generals, scientists, filled the galleries suspended in the air like hovering judgment. They expected entertainment. They expected a lesson in cosmic hierarchy. And they expected the small human to accept her place far below them. But Commander Elena Rios walked as if the place belonged to her. She moved toward the center of the sparring ring where the instructor, a towering Vornak with 4 glistening black eyes and a hide like hardened stone, waited with a posture that suggested the outcome was already known. The Vornak clan dominated physical disciplines for centuries. Their reputation alone was enough to make most species hesitate. Elena didn't hesitate once. The Vornak instructor tilted his head, mandibles twitching in amusement. "Human," he boomed, voice resonating like a drumbeat under the metal floor, "the interspecies combat hall is designed for advanced warriors. You were briefed on the hazards, yes?" She nodded once. "Fully aware." "Good." His grin widened. "Then what follows will be educational." A few aliens in the gallery chuckled. Others didn't bother to hide their smirks. A pair of Saran tacticians whispered to each other that humans were famously naive, always overestimating their resilience. A Threxian officer shook his head, muttering that a single mistake would end her quickly. Even among the instructors, there was an unspoken sense that she didn't belong here, that this was not her world, not her battlefield. Elena simply tightened the strap on her glove. "Begin," the instructor said. The moment the word left his mandibles, 3 alien cadets lunged from 3 different angles, a coordinated strike executed with the precision of species bred for war. The first to reach her was a sleek, insectoid Kesh with a double-jointed leap designed to overwhelm. He struck with a spinning downward heel meant to pin her to the ground. Elena didn't block. She rotated her torso half an inch, letting his kick slice the air beside her. The Kesh landed awkwardly, expecting contact that never came. Before he could recover, she tapped the back of his knee with her foot, a gentle motion, almost casual. But it dropped him flat. Gasps rippled across the gallery. The Kesh wasn't injured. He was simply outmatched, too stunned to understand how he had lost balance so easily. Elena didn't wait. She pivoted smoothly to face the second attacker, a broad-shouldered Greylax with arms thick as alloy pipes. He swung a massive forearm at her skull, a blow that would have crushed an ordinary human's neck. Her steps were liquid. She slid under his strike, palm brushed the floor, and used the momentum to whip her leg upward. Her foot connected with the underside of the Greylax's jaw in a precise arc, not brutal, not reckless, but surgically placed. The alien froze mid-motion, more shocked than hurt, then toppled backward under the weight of his own surprise. 2 cadets down. The gallery fell silent. The third attacker hesitated for half a heartbeat, too long. Elena stepped into his space, swiped his leading arm aside, and pressed 2 fingers lightly to a nerve cluster near his shoulder. His entire right side locked up instantly, and he collapsed in a heap of disbelief. Whispers erupted. What was that? Did she disrupt his motor reflexes? A human shouldn't know how to. Elena ignored the noise. She turned her gaze back to the Vornak instructor. The instructor's expression shifted from smug amusement to an intrigued, predatory focus. "Interesting," he said, stepping forward. "But those were merely opponents. Not challenges." His four eyes narrowed. "Your species has spirit, human. But spirit alone is not strength." Elena didn't reply. She didn't need to. He circled her slowly, claws clicking against the floor. "Humans overestimate their abilities because they survive on luck. Fragile bones, weak musculature, soft organs, your biology is inefficient. Your people mistake desperation for power. But in this hall, there is no desperation. There is precision, discipline, and evolution." The gallery murmured in agreement. The Vornak continued pacing, voice growing louder, more confident. "You do not belong in contests of strength. Your wars were fought on primitive worlds with primitive weapons. Your victories were accidents of history, not a testament to your worth." Elena lifted her chin an inch. "Are you finished?" A ripple of surprise traveled through the gallery. A few aliens blinked, confused at her calm tone. The instructor stopped circling. "You are bold, human. I'm focused. You are unprepared. I'm not." His mandibles twitched. "Prove it." Without warning, he lunged. His strike was a blur, a downward, crushing blow with strength that could dent starship hull plating. Elena stepped in instead of stepping back, sliding beneath his arm and ghosting past him with barely a breath of space. She pivoted, letting his weight carry forward, and then tapped a pressure point at the base of his spine. The Vornak stumbled. The gallery froze. Elena stepped back, unruffled. "Your entry was predictable," she said quietly. There was a sound like choking, laughter from somewhere in the gallery. Real laughter. A rare, sharp break in the hall's tension. The Vornak instructor straightened slowly, his pride wounded more than his body. "You dare mock me?" No. Elena tilted her head. "I'm correcting you." Gasps again. No human spoke to Vornak instructors that way. "You believe humans are weak," she continued softly. "You believe survival is luck. But survival is skill. Survival is adaptation. And you have mistaken quiet for weakness." The instructor's eyes burned. "You think you are exceptional." "Not exceptional," she said. "Just trained." The hall fell silent at those words. Every alien watching understood what she truly meant, that her performance so far was not the limit. It was the baseline. The Vornak's mandibles curled into a snarl. "Very well, human. If you wish to be tested, then I will test you." He dropped into a low stance, muscles rippling like coiled cables. Elena inhaled once, steady and slow. The final strike came in a flash, faster, stronger, more brutal than any of the cadets' attacks. The Vornak's sweeping blow tore across the air, claws slicing toward her with lethal force. She met it head-on. Her forearm intercepted his strike with perfect timing, redirecting the motion, then driving her palm upward into his throat, not enough to crush, just enough to break form. His balance shattered. She stepped behind him in the same motion, hooked his leg, and brought the towering alien to one knee with controlled precision. The gallery erupted into chaos. Shouting, disbelief, confusion, all swirling around the ring like a storm. Elena didn't celebrate. She simply released him and stepped back. The Vornak instructor rose slowly, shaking the shock from his limbs. For the first time, he looked at her not with arrogance, but with respect. "You are not what I expected," he said quietly. Elena lifted her chin. Humans rarely are. And for the first time since she entered the hall, no one disagreed. The silence after the sparring match hung like static in the air, thick and disbelieving. Elena Rios stood in the center of the training ring, breathing evenly as med-tech drones swarmed around the fallen cadets. The Vornak instructor's mandibles clicked in a strange rhythm, not anger, not confusion, something closer to contemplation. Alien dignitaries in the upper galleries murmured among themselves with shaken, unsettled tones. They had come expecting a spectacle of dominance. They had instead witnessed an uncomfortable truth. Humans didn't just survive. Humans adapted. The instructor finally broke the silence. "Human, your performance warrants further evaluation." The tone was formal, as though he were addressing another instructor rather than a cadet. "I'm ready," Elena said. "You presume to know what I intend. I know you haven't asked the real questions yet." A few aliens exchanged glances. The instructor narrowed his 4 eyes. "And what questions would those be?" Elena met his stare without fear. "You want to know how a species described as physically inferior could do what I did. You want to know whether it was luck, instinct, or something else entirely. You want to know what you missed." The Vornak straightened. "Very well. Then answer this. What drove you to train at a level beyond your species' limits?" "Limits are learned," Elena replied. "Not inherent." "And what taught you to exceed them?" "Earth." Her tone made a few aliens shift uncomfortably. She could feel their discomfort, the same unease that always followed when humans explained the realities of their homeworld. But she didn't elaborate. "Not yet. Your species demonstrates unpredictable combat efficiency," the instructor continued. "Your biology doesn't account for it. Your evolution doesn't explain it. So something else must. If you want the next phase of evaluation, you will answer questions honestly." "I always do." The Vornak gestured toward the side of the hall. A section of the floor cracked open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a descending platform illuminated by white-blue emergency lights. "You will follow," he said. Elena stepped onto the platform without hesitation. The instructor followed, and together they descended into the deeper levels of the combat hall, a place cadets rarely saw. As the lift sank through layers of reinforced alloy, she finally asked her first question. "Why are you really testing me this hard?" The instructor didn't look at her. "Because you are unsettling the council. Humans are requesting expanded roles in joint operations. Many fear that empowering your species will destabilize the balance. And you think I'm here to prove something politically? You're here to prove whether humans can be trusted with responsibility beyond their current reach." Elena folded her arms. "Then you've been testing the wrong attributes." "Explain." "You're testing speed, precision, reflex, tactical skill. Those matter. But what you should be testing is intent." The instructor's mandibles twitched. "Intent is irrelevant. Ability dictates survival." "Not for humans," she said quietly. Before he could respond, the platform slowed and locked into place in a chamber carved from obsidian metal, lit by suspended spheres of cold luminescence. She knew this room from old galactic broadcasts, the assessment vault. A place where cadets were pushed beyond theoretical boundaries. "Stand at the center," the instructor said. Elena stepped forward into the circular platform as the surrounding walls began to hum. Holographic patterns spiraled outward like metallic vines, forming simulations of battlefields, challenges, and scenarios from dozens of alien histories. "This is not combat," the instructor said. "This is measurement." "What kind of measurement?" "Controlled variables. I want to see how you respond when your environment shifts without warning." "Good," Elena said. "That's the only real test anyway." A thin mechanical voice echoed through the chamber, "Begin controlled assessment." The floor beneath her shifted instantly, a sudden drop in gravity followed by a surge that nearly lifted her off her feet. Elena adjusted, burying her weight into her stance. The room flashed, transforming into a blazing desert simulation. Wind surged at hurricane strength. She lifted an arm to shield her face, feet braced against the sand that wasn't sand but felt real enough. "Scenario 1, the instructor announced. Adaptive pressure response." The ground trembled. A shockwave erupted under her feet. Elena jumped, twisted midair, landed in a crouch, and slid several meters before catching herself. The instructor watched without expression. The simulation changed again. Darkness swallowed the chamber, then cold. Arctic cold. Her breath fogged into white clouds as ice crystals formed over the holographic floor. Elena moved instantly, not freezing, not hesitating, bundling her arms close, controlling her breathing, allowing her muscles to tighten rather than stiffen. Scenario 2, Thermal Regulation Under Combat Duress. The temperature snapped to blistering heat again. Then darkness. Then artificial rain. Then sudden tremors like quakes bursting beneath her feet. The tests weren't meant to defeat her, they were meant to reveal her. Elena navigated each shift with a calm that made the instructor's eyes narrow. Not because she was succeeding, but because she was too composed. "Why do you not panic?" he finally asked. "Because I've felt worse." The simulations escalated. Terrain collapsed beneath her. Gravity reversed. Wind buffeted from unpredictable vectors. A holographic predator with razor limbs lunged from the shadows. Elena rolled under the first strike, grabbed a simulated shard of debris, and used the creature's own momentum to drive it through its cranial plate. The creature dissipated into pixels. The room fell silent again. "Humans," the instructor muttered, "your species disregards the fear response pattern common to nearly all sapient life forms." Elena wiped simulated dust off her sleeve. "We don't disregard it. We repurpose it." The instructor folded his arms. "Explain." She finally gave him the answer he had been avoiding since the beginning. "Earth kills anything that hesitates." The room froze. No simulation. No movement. Only her words spreading through the cold air like a revelation. "You asked what shaped me," she continued. "What shaped all of us? It wasn't training. It wasn't discipline. It was survival. On Earth, everything is out of scale. The storms, the predators, the diseases, the gravity itself. Humans evolved on a nightmare world. We learned to observe. To adapt. To absorb information faster than we could be killed by it." The instructor listened, all arrogance gone. "You think our strength is biological," Elena said. "It isn't. It's environmental. Our home teaches us to endure what should end us. And because of that, we don't freeze when conditions shift." She took a step toward him. "We calculate." The instructor inhaled sharply, a reflex his species rarely used. "Then answer this final question, human, are you the standard? Or the exception?" Elena shrugged once. "Both." He blinked. "Impossible." "Not really. Humans have a wide range. Some are unpredictable. Some are volatile. Some are fragile. Some are relentless. But all of us share one thing: we don't stop just because conditions turn against us." The instructor looked at the assessment vault controls, then back at her. "Then I must test that claim." The floor trembled as a final simulation activated. The lights shattered into darkness. A piercing alarm echoed through the chamber. A holographic battlefield materialized: smoke, collapsing structures, falling debris, injured civilians screaming for help. Not a combat test. A crisis. Elena moved before the simulation even completed. She rushed toward a crumbling beam, braced her shoulder under it, and let her legs absorb the weight as she dragged a pinned cadet free. Then she guided another through the falling debris, shielding them with her own body as the environment shifted around them. Fire erupted from the far wall. Elena ducked, rolled, and carried a wounded soldier to cover. The instructor's eyes widened. "This wasn't meant to be a rescue scenario," he said softly. "Humans don't wait for permission to save lives," Elena said, still moving, still scanning, still calculating. She cleared the final obstacle, pulled the last simulated cadet to safety, and stood alone in the smoke as the battlefield dissolved into pixelated ash. The chamber fell completely silent. The instructor lowered his head. "Human, your people may be far more dangerous than the Council realizes." Elena wiped sweat from her brow. "Dangerous isn't the word." He looked up. "Then what is?" She stepped past him toward the lift. "Prepared." 3 days passed before anyone spoke to Elena Rios again. Not because the instructors were ignoring her, but because the academy was still processing what they had witnessed. Data analysts devoured the recordings. Council observers argued behind sealed doors. The Vornak instructor, once smug in his authority, reviewed her assessment logs in total silence, playing certain segments on loop as if searching for an error that didn't exist. By the third day, rumors had become thunder. Some cadets whispered she was a prototype soldier. Others claimed she possessed illegal augmentation. A few said she wasn't human at all, but something Earth had sent to intimidate the council. Elena didn't respond to any of it. She trained quietly in the auxiliary hall, practicing movements she had learned long before she ever left Earth, movements that had nothing to do with alien academies or political expectations. Movements that belonged to the Navy SEAL in her, not the cadet. It wasn't until midday on the fourth day that the sirens began. A deep, resonant alarm shook the entire academy, not a drill, not a scheduled test, not even a simulation error. This was real. Cadets froze mid-exercise. Instructors rushed to terminals. The air thickened with panic. Then came the announcement. Breach detected in Sector 12. Unknown hostile presence. All cadets are to evacuate immediately. The hall erupted in chaos. Alien cadets shoved past each other, racing for emergency exits. Instructors shouted commands to form groups, maintain order, report injuries. Elena stood still, listening closely. A breach, real, not simulated, inside the most secure military training complex in this quadrant? Impossible. Unless someone wanted it to be possible. The floor beneath her vibrated again, harder this time. She sprinted toward the nearest terminal, bypassed the standard cadet lock with a manual override taught in her SEAL years, and pulled the security feed from Sector 12. Her jaw tightened. A containment chamber, shattered. Security drones, destroyed. A massive, shifting entity carved from obsidian hide and bioluminescent tendrils, breaching deeper into the academy. She recognized the pattern in its movement, adaptive, uncoordinated, reactive. An apex predator from the Solarian wild zones. Someone had brought it here. Someone wanted disaster. Her stomach sank. This wasn't an accident. She ran. Down the hall, cadets were still fleeing in disordered panic, some tripping over their own feet as tremors shook the floors. Elena vaulted over railings, slid beneath half-lowered blast doors, and sprinted through crowded corridors towards Sector 12, moving against the evacuation flow. A Threxian instructor saw her. "Human. You're going the wrong way. The exits are." She didn't slow. "There are wounded in the breach zone. That is not your assignment." She was already gone. The air grew hotter as she neared the source, a dull, pulsing heat radiating from the destruction the creature left behind. Walls were torn. Support beams fractured. Fire suppression clouds hissed through vents. Elena gritted her teeth and pushed deeper. A young Kesh cadet lay on the ground ahead, pinned under a twisted metal beam. His faceted eyes were wide with terror as the predator's distant roars trembled through the hall. "Don't move," Elena said. "Human, leave me. The creature will return." She ignored him. She braced herself, slipped both hands under the beam, planted her feet, and lifted. Not because she was stronger, but because she understood leverage. The beam shifted. She pushed harder. It rose enough for the cadet to crawl out. "How did you?" She pulled him to his feet. "Run. Now." He ran like his life depended on it, because it did. Elena pushed forward until the hall shook again, dust raining from the ceiling. The predator roared, close. Too close. She turned a corner and froze. The Vornak instructor lay half-slumped against a collapsed wall, his lower legs pinned under a section of reinforced plating. Sparks arced from a shattered power conduit beside him. His breathing was ragged. "Elena," he rasped, his four eyes dilating in surprise. "You should not be here. I'm getting you out." A rescue attempt here would be irrational. The predator has already marked this area. Irrelevant. She knelt beside him, analyzing the damage. The plating was heavier than the last beam, far heavier. Even with technique, she wouldn't be able to lift it fully. But she didn't need to. She examined the support braces above the plating, found the fractured point, and drove her heel into it. The metal gave way with a sharp crack, shifting the load just enough for her to wedge her shoulder under the plate's edge. Her muscles screamed. She didn't stop. She pushed until her vision blurred, until the instructor could drag himself free. He stared at her with unmasked disbelief. Your people willingly endanger themselves to save others? Every day, she said. His mandibles quivered. I understand your assessment now. Later. She helped him sit upright. Where's the creature? The answer came as a low vibration in the floor. Then a closer tremor. Then a loud, wet scraping as something massive clawed its way through the broken corridor. The instructor's eyes widened. Behind you. Elena didn't turn. She already knew. The predator lunged, tendrils whipping through the air like serrated cables. Elena rolled, grabbed a shard of fractured plating, and brought it up just in time to deflect the first strike. Sparks exploded. The creature bellowed, its bioluminescent veins pulsing brighter. It lunged again. She ducked, grabbed a fallen pipe, and drove it into the joint between its tendrils. The creature recoiled, shrieking. She pressed the attack, sliding under its body, bracing her back against the floor, and driving both legs upward into its abdomen. The impact threw it off balance. Her heartbeat stayed steady. She rose, seized another support rod, and struck the side of its skull. The predator staggered, slammed into a wall, then froze as flames erupted from a ruptured fuel line beside it. The beast shrieked again before collapsing into a heap of twitching limbs. Smoke filled the corridor. Elena exhaled slowly. When she turned back, the Vornak instructor was staring at her like he had never seen her before. Like he was seeing humanity for the first time. He struggled to his feet. Human. Elena Rios. I must speak truthfully. Save your strength. No, his voice hardened, becoming something almost ceremonial. I misjudged your species. We all did. You do not survive because you are strong. You survive because you refuse to abandon anyone. You saw the simulations, she said. You know why. He nodded. Your homeworld shaped you differently. But that does not explain your choices here. Elena looked at him, sweat streaking her brow. You wanted to test intent. Now you know. He straightened, barely, but with the dignity of a commander acknowledging another commander. The council will hear of this. Every species will. Your people are not a liability. You are not reckless. You are not unstable. His voice lowered. You are necessary. Before she could respond, a dozen instructors and med teams surged into the corridor. They froze when they saw the dead predator. Then they froze again when they saw who stood beside it. The Vornak instructor gestured toward her. This human, he said, his voice resonating through the ruined hall, risked her life to save mine. She faced a predator that would have slaughtered the rest of us. And she did not hesitate. The room fell silent. She did what no simulation predicted, he continued. She did what no council strategist accounted for. His voice dropped to a low, solemn command. Record this moment. Humanity is not to be underestimated again. The med teams looked at her with new eyes, not mockery, not disbelief, not fear. Respect. Deep, earned respect. Elena wiped dust from her cheek. Are we done here? The instructor nodded. Yes. But one final thing. She waited. You asked earlier what word describes your people better than dangerous. His gaze locked with hers. I have found my answer. Elena raised an eyebrow. And? He bowed, a gesture no Vornak had ever given a human. Indispensable. That single word echoed through the hall like a verdict. Like a warning. Like a promise. Elena Rios simply nodded once, turned, and walked away, leaving behind a silent crowd, a dead predator, and a rewritten understanding of what a human could be. And no one in the galaxy would ever forget it.